Live from Washington, D.C., Jay Sekulow Live. Phone lines are open for your questions right now.
Hey, welcome to the broadcast. This is Jordan Sekulow, the Executive Director of the American Center for Law and Justice, and a lot to talk about today with the ACLJ's work in defending Israel. And many of you know about the American Center for Law and Justice, that we do this work in the United States of America. Some of you may know we have international offices. One of the most unique international offices we have is in Jerusalem. And it's not the Israeli Center for Law and Justice, it's the ACLJ Jerusalem, the American Center for Law and Justice Jerusalem. It's significant because it shows that symbol of America standing in defense of the Jewish state of Israel. That's why we chose that name, even, is very important, ACLJ Jerusalem, where we have a team of Israeli attorneys and specialists working on issues defending the state of Israel. And what we have seen over the past year are a couple of different efforts. One is even right here in the United States. And we're not talking about just the terror threats. We're not just talking about the military threats that Israel is surrounded by enemies. But we're talking about the threats from the outside that are not weapons in reality, but are kind of a sense of warfare, utilizing other methods to delegitimize the state of Israel. One of those is the BDS movement, Boycott, Divestment, and Sanctions. What does that mean? It is a movement, and we've been very successful this year in fighting back in courts against it, for institutions, organizations, especially universities and associations, to boycott Israel, to divest, to take any investments out of Israel, and then to support sanctions, economic sanction on Israel. This is a movement, again, that was gaining steam even right here in the United States of America on our university campuses and student and professors, groups of professors. We have been fighting back very aggressively and have been successful. And so that movement has kind of transformed itself into a movement to completely undermine Israel by calling Israel now an apartheid state. Now, that is terminology, of course, you know about South Africa. It's an Afrikaans word. But to use that kind of terminology about Israel would mean that everything Israel is doing, its mere existence, is illegal, like the South African minority government. And remember, in that situation, we were talking about a white minority ruling a black majority. In Israel, you're talking about a small Jewish minority controlling its own state, barely hanging on to its own state, having to fight for it, surrounded by an Arab majority. So to call Israel the apartheid state is not only wrong and illogical, it's also very dangerous, because all of Israel's enemies would like to see it destroyed. And there's various ways to do that. There's military ways, but there's ways to delegitimize Israel, even at the United Nations. So, folks, we do a lot of work internationally on this issue. Of course, it's very important to have American Christians standing up for Israel. We have a voice in this. Our European Center for Law and Justice, based in Strasbourg, France, is a recognized NGO with the United Nations. That means we can stand for Israel at one of the most anti-Israel bodies in the world, the United Nations. Our new ambassador to the UN, Nikki Haley's talked about that, how the UN is singularly focused on being an anti-Israel body. So, folks, I just want to for you all to understand the significant role the ACLJ plays, our ACLJ Jerusalem, our European Center, and our other international offices coming together in defense of the Jewish state of Israel. We come back, you're going to just get some insight into one of the things that we're doing. This is an event at the United Nations. The second year in a row, our chief counsel, Jay Sekulow, my dad, is one of the four main speakers, and we're going to play that event for you. This is Ambassadors Against BDS. Folks, we need you to stand with Israel against all of these threats. Call now. Our toll-free number is 877-989-2255 to add your name to the petition. That's 877-989-2255, or go to aclj.org. That's aclj.org and sign the petition today.
Israel is under constant deadly terrorist knife and rocket attacks. Jewish students, professors, and Christians who support Israel face vicious discrimination at U.S. universities, all in an attempt to delegitimize the state of Israel. Israel is our ally. The Jewish people are friends. It's our duty to defend them. That's why the ACLJ is launching a massive new multinational legal campaign in defense of Israel, in the U.S., at the UN, and with world leaders. But we need these global leaders to hear from you now. Add your name to our new petition, a petition to defend Israel from anti-Israel attacks across the globe. Call now, 1-877-989-2255. That's 1-877-989-2255. That's 1-877-989-2255. Or you can add your name online, aclj.org.
Hey, welcome back to the broadcast. This is Jordan Sekulow from the ACLJ. I'm about to show you some of the events just happened recently at the United Nations in New York. This is at the main hall where you see world leaders speak. Our chief counsel, Jay Sekulow, was one of 4 main speakers in an event sponsored by the State of Israel called Ambassadors Against BDS. That's Boycott, Divestment, and Sanction of Israel. Now let's go to the floor at the United Nations.
Thank you so much. It is great to be with you again. I am Shmulik Sekulow's grandson. I am a lawyer. I stood before you here last year. And Ambassador Danon, let me say thank you for allowing me to be back. A lot has changed in a year, and I want to tell you that the changes have been for the better. Those that seek to destroy the legitimacy of the Jewish state, those that seek to make a hostile environment for those that simply want to carry a message protected by the First Amendment in favor of the State of Israel, have met resistance. But those that were opposing them have met a greater resistance. For the past year, we have stood firm on many fronts. And I am really pleased to tell you today that we've achieved in just this last year many great victories on behalf of free speech on campuses for students, for faculty, and for others. Last year, we defended the right of a University of Texas professor, the director of the Institute of Israel Studies on a college campus in favor of Israel. During his event, a hostile student disrupted his talk and afterwards even had the audacity to file a complaint with the university alleging that the speech he sought to give was somehow inappropriate, discriminatory, or hateful. Despite the rather poor status of free speech on campuses, I'm happy to tell you that we write a pretty tough letter, pretty tough legal brief at the American Center for Law and Justice. And that attack on that professor was not only not successful, but the university completely backed off. A 100% victory. No question about it. You know, I like to fight. I don't hesitate in fighting. I said I'm the grandson of a fruit peddler from Brooklyn, New York. Came to the United States from Russia. Second generation of my family born here. Just a few days ago, I had the awesome experience of spending some time with the President of the United States. Let me say something. Let me tell you what we don't have to worry about. Because of Ambassador Haley, because of the position of the United States, and because of the President, we're not going to have to worry about where the United States stands in defense of the Jewish state of Israel. Now, in August, we took on one of the most significant cases we've ever taken on at the ACLJ. Let me tell you a little bit about the plaintiffs in this case. The lead plaintiff, Basim al-Tamimi, is a well-known member of a terrorist family, which means he gets awards from the Palestinian Authority when his family members commit terrorist acts. He is on the record in the New York Times as saying he would like to be the one to start the third intifada. He's a professional provocateur. He is perhaps most famous for sending his own children to throw rocks at Israeli soldiers in hopes that the Israeli soldiers will respond and that he can capture that response on video. He literally puts his children in harm's way to see if he can get a reaction from his soldiers. It brings to mind the famous quote of the Prime Minister Golda Meir. I've got a granddaughter named Golda. So this means a lot to me. To be honest and fair, I've got a granddaughter named Georgia as well, and a granddaughter named Sophie. I want to be an equal opportunity in my grandson, Riker. But Golda Meir, the namesake for my granddaughter, she said this: peace will come when they love their own children as much as they hate ours. Strong words from Golda Meir. Now, on the other side of the lawsuit is the Gush Etzion Foundation, a charity dedicated to defending the history and the people of Gush Etzion, or what was called at the very beginning of the modern state of Israel, the Gush Etzion block, a group of villages in the Judean mountains near Jerusalem and Bethlehem. Great land, great people, famous battle. The Ambassador Danon, called me about a year ago when this case came to be and said he received a call from the folks in Gush Etzion and they needed a tough lawyer. I like being a tough lawyer. And when you know the story of Gush Etzion, it brings out the toughest part of who you are. There is much work to do because it's changed now. BDS has moved from delegitimization to the elimination of Israel. The Ambassador Haley talked about the ECOSOC, the United Nations Economic and Social Commission for Western Asia's report that declared that Israel was an apartheid state. That's what they declared. They said it was an apartheid state, and what do you do to apartheid states? You don't just delegitimize them, you end them. The executive summary of this now revoked, removed, tarnished, false report said this in its beginning. Member states have a collective duty, A, not to recognize an apartheid regime as lawful, B, not to aid or assist a state in maintaining an apartheid regime, and C, to cooperate with the United Nations and other states in bringing apartheid regimes to an end. Let me change how that really is worded. This is what they mean. The executive summary should be read this way if you understand what they are saying about the state of Israel. Member states have a collective duty not to recognize Israel as a regime that is lawful, not to aid or assist Israel in maintaining its regime, and not to cooperate and not allow the UN to cooperate, nor other states. But they should cooperate in one thing, in bringing Israel to an end. That was a report out of this body. That report is no longer in existence because of the valiant efforts of Ambassador Danon and Ambassador Haley. I like research and I like evidence, so I wanted to find out who wrote this report. You heard about Rima Khalif. You didn't hear a lot about Richard Falk. Richard Falk called the Boston Marathon bombings a conspiracy perpetrated by Tel Aviv. This who was the co-author of the report. His other co-author, Rima Khalif, has had a long history of anti-Semitism and anti-Israel statements. We utilized our NGO status at this very body at the UN to do away with this report, and because of the great work, as I said, of our Ambassador Danon and Ambassador Haley, that report is gone. It's incorrect, by the way, as a matter of law. I'm not going to get you into the legalese, but let me just tell you this. They conveniently ignore who attacked whom during the conflicts. Who was it that initiated the military action against Israel? It was not the Israeli state that was the aggressor. That they ignore. That report is gone. I would like to close with this. I'm a student of history. I'm a lawyer. I'm a litigator. Spent a lot of time at my Supreme Court of the United States, at our Supreme Court of the United States. One of the highest honors of my life, as is appearing before you all. Every time I touch this podium, and I realize who's been here. I just lost my father a couple weeks ago. I think about my father, the son of Shmulik, my grandfather, my father, my kids, my grandkids. You know, my grandfather came here as a fruit peddler in Brooklyn, New York. I get to argue cases at the Supreme Court of the United States and appear before you. But I'm also a student of history. I had the privilege for a number of years studying at the University of Oxford, where I also had the opportunity to lecture. I was given access to the papers of the famed British Prime Minister Benjamin Disraeli, who quipped that when he won the prime ministership, he said, "I have reached the top of the greasy pole." But he was also a prolific author and novelist. In his novel, Alroy, Disraeli has a poignant quote that is seared in my mind, and I want you to take it with you. Alroy wanted to see a return of a Jewish homeland. He was the figure that this novel of Disraeli was about, and there's this poignant moment where he's asked a series of questions by the protagonist. Alroy says, "If I speak in heat, I speak in zeal. You ask me what I wish, a national existence which we have not. You ask me what I wish. My answer is the land of promise. You ask me what I wish. My answer is Jerusalem. You ask me what I wish. My answer is the temple. All we have fortified, all we have yearned for, all we have fought for, our beautiful country, our holy creed, and our ancient customs. Let me answer Alroy today. You ask me what I wish for. My answer is a land of national existence, which we have. You ask me what I wish for. Jerusalem, which we have. You ask me what I wish and what I want. The temple. We have fortified and fought for it. We fight for our creed. We fight for our ancient customs. Those longing wish of Alroy should be the wish of all of us, that we maintain that ability to have our national existence, our land of promise, Jerusalem, the temple, our creeds, our customs. And at the end of the day, let me be crystal clear. We win. Thank you.
Folks, let us continue to stand with the Jewish state of Israel. Call now. Add your name to our petition, Standing with Israel. It's very important that we as Christians do so. Call a toll-free number. It's 877-989-2255. That's 877-989-2255. You can also go to aclj.org. That's aclj.org and sign the petition online. Again, Standing with Israel. Go to aclj.org or call 877-989-2255.
Israel is under constant deadly terrorist knife and rocket attacks. Jewish students, professors, and Christians who support Israel face vicious discrimination at U.S. universities, all in an attempt to delegitimize the state of Israel. Israel is our ally. The Jewish people are friends. It's our duty to defend them. That's why the ACLJ is launching a massive new multinational legal campaign in defense of Israel, in the U.S., at the UN, and with world leaders. But we need these global leaders to hear from you now. Add your name to our new petition, a petition to defend Israel from anti-Israel attacks across the globe. Call now, 1-877-989-2255. That's 1-877-989-2255. That's 1-877-989-2255. Or you can add your name online, aclj.org.
back to the broadcast. You just saw my dad speaking, our chief counsel at the American Center for Law and Justice, Jay Sekulow, at this UN event. That was the same place where presidents and world leaders speak from, sponsored by the State of Israel, called Ambassadors Against BDS. You saw his remarks. Now I want to play you the remarks from our ambassador, the U.S. ambassador to the United Nations, Nikki Haley, and what a great change that has been since our past former ambassador in the Obama administration, and Israel's ambassador to the United Nations, Danny Danone, both good friends of ours. Let's see that now.
Welcome to the United Nations, U.S. Ambassador to the UN, Nikki Haley. Yes, she deserves it. Jay Sekulow, the Chief Counsel of the American Center for Law and Justice. Many of the world's most important leaders have gathered here in this historic hall, stood at this very podium, and filled the seats you are sitting in today. It is here that countries come together to determine the direction of the international community and to shape our common future. Last year, I saw many of you. We all made history as over 2,000 students and people joined us for the first annual Ambassadors Against BDS conference. Together, we put the world on notice about the dangers of BDS. You came then to proclaim our determination and readiness to fight back against the boycott movement. Today, we are here to say that the fight goes on. Today, we will never hide our Jewish heritage. Today, Jews will not be ashamed to walk the streets with their kippas. Today, we stand proudly and support the Jewish state. Ladies and gentlemen, this conference is not about just stopping a boycott. It's about making it clear once and for all that Jewish people and the Jewish state will not be treated differently. The Jewish community does not need to be only defended, but celebrated and embraced. And Israel does not only have the right to exist, it is entitled to flourish and thrive. When you leave this building at the end of the day, we need you in public squares, audience halls, and university lectures. We need you to stand up at protests and demonstrations and advocate across social media. As Israel's ambassador to the UN, I know what it feels like when you're on your own, how it feels to stand up for what's right, even if it's not popular. But I also know that I'm never truly alone as I fight for Israel. We have true allies here at the UN who stand together with us. And all of you are not alone either as you fight BDS. Just look around you. Understand that when you stand for the truth, you are never alone. My friends, we are here today with a simple message for those who seek to harm the Jewish state and the Jewish people. We will keep fighting until we eliminate BDS on our campuses. We will keep fighting until BDS is rejected here at the UN. And we will keep fighting until anti-Semitism is finally defeated. Am Israel Chai.
Thank you very much. I want to thank Ambassador Danone for the invitation to be here today, as well as all of you who are showing your support for the State of Israel. The effort to delegitimize the State of Israel being waged on college campuses and the anti-Israel obsession at the UN are one and the same. They both seek to deny Israel's right to exist. They are both efforts to intimidate her friends and embolden her enemies. They are both extensions of an ancient hatred. And how tragic is it that of all countries in the world to condemn for human rights violations, these voices choose to single out Israel. We should boycott North Korea. We should sanction Iran. We should divest from Syria, not Israel. It makes absolutely no sense, and it has no connection to any reasonable definition of justice. A few months after I signed the South Carolina anti-BDS bill, I got an email from Joel Greenberg, another friend of your movement. I was working with the Republican Governors Association at the time. Joel asked me to contact some of my fellow governors to encourage them to enact laws similar to South Carolina's. I was happy to do it, and I did. Around the same time, Joel sent me a link to a film written and produced by his daughter, Sarah. It was the story of her grandparents' survival of Auschwitz. In it, she talked about seeing the number tattooed on her grandfather's arm as a young girl. And her grandfather talked about seeing the skies over Auschwitz glow red at the night from the heat of the crematoriums. Sarah's film is about her journey toward understanding her family's history and the Holocaust. It is a journey toward truth. The effort to delegitimize Israel that travels under the name BDS is something very different. It is a movement away from truth and away from history. Congratulations on being here to stand for Sarah's grandparents and the truth that they represent. Know that the United States has Israel's back. And know that you now have a friend and a fighter in the UN to help you. Thank you very much. God bless. Thank you.
Folks, now is the time to stand for and with the Jewish state of Israel. There's so many different issues, so many distractions, but we can never forget standing with Israel is one of our most important duties as American Christians. Call our toll-free number right now. Add your name to our petition, Standing with Israel. That's 877-989-2255, 877-989-2255. You can also go to aclj.org. That's aclj.org and sign that petition online. We'll talk to you next time.
Israel is under constant deadly terrorist knife and rocket attacks. Jewish students, professors, and Christians who support Israel face vicious discrimination at U.S. universities, all in an attempt to delegitimize the state of Israel. Israel is our ally, the Jewish people our friends. It's our duty to defend them. That's why the ACLJ is launching a massive new multinational legal campaign in defense of Israel, in the U.S., at the UN, and with world leaders. But we need these global leaders to hear from you now. Add your name to our new petition, a petition to defend Israel from anti-Israel attacks across the globe. Call now, 1-877-989-2255. That's 1-877-989-2255. That's 1-877-989-2255. Or you can add your name online, aclj.org.